Welcome to the film analysis. Today with Song of the South. Released in 1946, this mixture of live action and animated film, where actors meet cartoon characters, is the most controversial Disney film ever. Song of the South is so controversial that it is not available on Disneyplus, even though all of Walt Disney's classic films are available there. It is also not available on DVD, but there are ways and means of watching it in the age of the internet. The film has won awards, including an Oscar for the film's most famous song, Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah, and the black actor James Baskett, who plays Uncle Remus, received an honorary Oscar for the role, even though he was unable to attend the film's premiere in Atlanta, as the racist state would not give him a hotel room at the time. So, what is going on with this film? It is said that the film should no longer be shown due to its racism. Disney says we don't want to continue to make money from it, and it's a kind of stain on the company's history. The rest is silence. That's very cowardly, and above all, it's wrong. But what is this film about? It's set in the 19th century, but after the abolition of slavery, so after 1865. There's a little boy, 7-year-old Johnny, who travels with his parents to his grandmother's plantation in Georgia. Johnny is a little unhappy about the situation with his parents. They want to separate. His father leaves very quickly to return to the city. He is the editor of a newspaper. We don't find out exactly which newspaper it is, but it seems to be quite a conservative one. On arrival at the plantation, we immediately see black laborers and servants living in Spartan conditions near the plantation, while the grandmother's villa is an opulently furnished stately home. Johnny, however, is very unhappy about his parents' marital problems, even though everything is quite good there, and he wants to flee. Suddenly, however, he hears a man, Uncle Remus, telling black children a story about Brer Rabbit. Remus is an old, loving black gentleman who must have once been a slave, but this is never explicitly stated. Johnny and Remus, who will tell a total of 3 stories, become friends. The stories all concern Brer Rabbit, a cunning rabbit who always manages to save himself from dicey situations. At the same time, he always gives educational advice, such as never run away from home. In these episodes, Remus strolls through an undefined past, sings to himself and meets cartoon characters. Between the stories, Johnny befriends a black boy and a girl from a poor family whose evil brothers make life difficult for the children. The tension in the film, which is very low, is mainly created by misunderstandings. Remus is repeatedly told by Johnny's mother that he shouldn't tell him any more stories, or his mother forbids Johnny to have a dog. These little misunderstandings carry a certain potential for conflict, but there is a dramatic climax when Remus is finally forbidden from entertaining Johnny with stories any longer. Remus leaves in the carriage. Johnny runs after him, but is attacked by a bull and is close to death. Remus returns with Johnny's father, and only a story from Remus can save Johnny. The magic of storytelling is supposed to provide a cure. There is, of course, a double happy ending. The parents are back together and the children play happily together, all thanks to Remus. So, what's the problem here? It all sounds terribly harmless, unquestionably a little cheerful and certainly not scandalous. Of course, Song of the South cannot be compared with a film like Birth of a Nation by D.W. Griffith, in which the murdering Ku Klux Klan is portrayed as a savior in times of need. No, this film is by no means propaganda, but there is still something wrong with Song of the South. On the one hand, there is the portrayal, the appearance, especially in Zip-a-Dee-Doo-Dah, reminiscent of the infamous minstrel shows. Black people are also portrayed very stereotypically here, even if you consider that Disney films work with strong exaggerations. However, looking at film history, at the films of the time, it must be said that this is by no means unique, and there are much more racist portrayals in films that we still see on television or on DVD. Take, for example, the portrayal of Mammy in Gone with the Wind. In general, when watching older films, you should pay attention to how small supporting roles with black characters are contoured in the past. We often witness servile cheerfulness. It is pretended that it is the nature of black people to serve. Exactly what we find in Song of the South. All the black characters are shown as if there is nothing better than serving the whites. After the Bull attack on Johnny, it is also astonishing that the black people all gather in front of the house, but don't even enter the terrace and start singing a spiritual song. Only Remus is allowed in to tell his story. In the film, the black people never speak at eye level with the whites, and the camera reinforces this hierarchy. In other words, two white people look down on the black people. It is different in the encounter with the children. Their racist ideology is already evident, namely this racist discourse that black people have a childlike disposition. This is latently served as a matter of course. Remus is a servant in more ways than one. He serves the white Johnny as a teacher and jester, but he also serves the family as the one reuniting the couple. And he serves the film as the personified other through whose stories another world opens. Remus is not ascribed any needs of his own, nor are the other black characters. All they really want is for the young son of rich white parents to do well. Here we slowly get to the ideological core of the film. It's not just the way the film is portrayed. Individual races displays annoy, but they don't represent the main problem. The perfidious thing about Song of the South is that it is completely ahistorical. If the film rendered the historical concrete, that is, that slavery had just been abolished and that this in no way meant that black people had equal rights to whites, if it clearly reflected the political situation, then we would have no problem recognizing the power relations. But it is different. Not only doesn't the frame story become historically concrete, but even worse. In the individual stories in which the cartoon characters appear, the historical is completely declared to be ahistorical. One could even say the state of nature. In this way, the power relations are completely obscured. The film also has Uncle Remus say, as he introduces the first story, "Now, this here tale didn't happen just yesterday, nor the day before. 'Twas a long time ago." And in them days, everything was mighty satisfactory. The critters, they was closer to the fox, and the fox, they was closer to the critters. And if you'll excuse me for saying so, 'twas better all around. Honey, it happened in one of them Zip-a-Dee-Doo days. An astonishing introduction to a harmless story, but this harmlessness is deceptive and we need to decode this introduction. It is said that humans and other living creatures once lived in harmony and close to each other. In other words, an image of a natural order is being established here, and we are talking about the time of slavery. At the same time, it emphasizes that it was a better time. In other words, slavery was a better time. Here, the historical injustice appears as a fairy tale land. Roland Barthes has written precisely about fairy tales and myths fulfilling an ideological function. Barthes explains in Myths of Everyday Life, semiology has taught us that myth is charged with founding historical intention as nature, chance as eternity. This approach is precisely that of bourgeois ideology. If our society is objectively the privileged domain for mythical meaning, it is because myth is formally the most appropriate instrument of ideological inversion by which it is defined. At all levels of human communication, myth causes the inversion of anti-nature into pseudo-nature. End of quote. He continues by writing, "The myth is a depoliticized statement." We experience such a depoliticized statement here when a story is introduced in the aforementioned way and the entire film bears this character. The historical injustice, namely the oppression of black people by white people in the form of slavery, appears as a past place of longing. And although slavery has been abolished by law, the black characters still behave as if slavery remained the natural order. The film thus naturalizes the dominance of white over black people. Especially black people should supposedly be happy to have their place in the natural order. But society is exactly the opposite of nature. In films like Bambi or The Lion King, Disney is always trying to pretend that there is a natural order. Think of the dialogue about the antelopes in The Lion King when Simba asks his father why we eat the antelopes. There too the father imagines a natural order. Let's think of Bambi when it comes to the stag, Bambi's father. Why is the stag allowed to rule the forest like a prince? Because he is the wisest. Here too we have a natural order established. Or why is Simba the rightful successor? Why is there no democracy in The Lion King? So what should we do with Song of the South, which is not so ideologically out of the ordinary? Not showing this film on the official platforms doesn't mean that it's no longer accessible. It resembles children who cover their eyes and believe they can't be seen. It's a cowardly attitude on Disney's part. Instead, an annotated release of this film is of need. For one thing, Song of the South is also part of the film heritage, and it is technically very innovative for 1946, despite all its ideological implications. It goes without saying that this film should not be released as a children's and family film. On the other hand, you must be able to create a distance to this subtle ideology to not succumb to it. Nevertheless, this film should be released. Disney could donate its revenue or release the film for free. But we must realize that Song of the South is not simply a faux pas in Disney's corporate history. Rather, a justified criticism of Song of the South also implies a fundamental criticism of Disney's ideology, which is only obvious to us because we are much more sensitized to racism. Whether in Bambi, The Lion King or other classics, a hierarchy, that is, unequal models of society, are always propagated as natural and good. Order is eventually restored. In the Disney films, the animal stands for people, and conversely, human social conditions are naturalized. In Song of the South, we experience this even more transparently because it is set among humans. That's how it's always been. As Disney films like to claim, is therefore particularly striking. Song of the South is a typical Disney film, but the times have changed now, and that's why it has come back to bite them. While Bambi and co. are still considered harmless, Song of the South shows us just how delicate this harmlessness is. Perhaps Disney is also hiding this film because we recognize the Disney ideology here with remarkable clarity and don't watch, but we see it. It would be nice if you would like to support the film analysis financially. You can do so via my bank account or PayPal. Also, you can find me on Patreon. Thank you very much.